Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome very warmly my colleague Maggie, who many of you know as our Polish citizenship specialist, and many of you have spoken to her. Many of you have heard her holding your hand through this pretty challenging process. Good morning, Maggie.
Hello.
For those people that don't know, your job is really to talk people through eligibility. So, we look at everyone's case and we try and work out whether they qualify right from the outset, where you look at people's histories and you can read between the lines with your historical knowledge and your experience that you've had. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about that?
Definitely. So it happened to me a few times when, for example, a person which I'm speaking with telling me a little bit about their background. And for example, they're telling me their ancestors were Jewish and they were from specific region. And I know what to expect, what might have been happened to their family. And you have to be a little bit sensitive because of that traumatic experience which their ancestors had, and that possibly was a little bit passed on their children or grandchildren as well. But it happened to me that I knew what the person will say.
Right, you can predict
history. Yes, so it can be very emotional, even for me as well.
Right.
Just because I spent some time learning myself about history, about that specific tragic history as well. I was reading lots of stories or memories of people which experienced that. And it does have an influence on you as well, because you're reading that and you tend to move yourself into that period as well, as seeing that with your own eyes. So I can treat it sometimes a little bit emotional, but yeah.
So it's certainly not transactional for you. So every person we speak to is unique. Every history is unique, but we can see, knowing what we know about the history, you can sort of read between the lines and see what may have happened. And therefore you can provide people with an explanation as to what may have happened to their ancestors. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And I tend to say, or explain a little bit why certain things could happen. I mean, of course, especially for Second World War, there is no other explanation or excuse for what happened. But I tend to point out some things why. And many people also will mention, oh, my grandparents didn't want to talk about it. A little bit of blame. And I'm saying, but I don't blame them. I mean, that was so painful, so traumatic. They just don't want to think about it. And we have to understand it. And we can trace documentation. We can trace information. If they don't want to speak about it, it's better not to force them to it, because it's too traumatic.
Yeah, because you don't want them to relieve that trauma. And it's fair to say too that when people immigrated, they just got on with their lives and they started building their new identities, new families. So all of that became a bit less important. But today, Maggie, really, the purpose of our chat is really to talk about benefits of why you should think about getting your passport now. And the reason that we say to people, look, now is a good time, to explore that second citizenship or dual passport is what, Maggie? What do you say to your clients when they ask you, why should I spend this money? Why should I work with you? Why should I get it?
So first of all, at this stage, where I would say that the demand is so high, we have so much interest in it that we would expect that the process will get in the future some kind of delays. So I think it would be the best time to join the process now, just to quickly secure your place in European Union. And if we're speaking about the reasons why to get European citizenship, well, there is so many benefits of that, and I don't think many Poles itself, being born in Poland, realize how big value Polish passport has, just because they were born to it, and they not really realizing that normally you would have visa or restrictions to go to Germany or France, and we used to that free travel so much that it just became a little bit of a normality. But for people which live in abroad, for people from the United States, Australia, they get in a little bit more, or they can see a little bit more benefits in that. So that full residential rights, full working rights in all European Union countries. So 27 countries where you're getting access with no visas, with no restrictions to stay. I think it's quite amazing. I mean, I abused, I'm not sure if it's good wording, but I abused the system myself. I moved from Poland to England. I lived there for 4 years. And it was so easy because I just packed my bag and went there. And that's it.
Tell us, when you start working with clients, and now you've been with Polaron for close to 18 months, so you've seen that cycle of success. So when you talk to someone and explain to them how we're going to work, what we're going to do, but then we get the citizenship. So do clients reach back out to you when they've been approved?
They can. It happened to me sometimes that they did. They usually, because another person which is helping them is Kinga, of course, our operations manager. They very often will reach out to her because she was helping them in that process of lodging application. But they very often can mention me as well, which I think is extremely lovely. And it is extremely rewarding for me because I remember how excited they were on the beginning, talking about Europe, or I have plans to move, retire in Spain and things like this. And I'm really happy that I'm part of that journey to be able to grant them that opportunity. So it is quite amazing. And it is very rewarding where they will get back to you and just say, well, thank you.
So Maggie, we're going to finish up with 3 tips why you should go for your Polish citizenship now. And tip number 1 is because you get to work with Maggie, right?
Yes, certainly. Yes. So first of all, because you have an opportunity to work with Polaron and amazing people here. But I think the first one for me is definitely the freedom of movement in between all 27 countries. I mean, it is amazing opportunity, especially considering that Europe itself it has such a long history. You have one of the oldest universities there. So opportunity to work, live, and study in European Union is the biggest benefit for myself. The second one for me personally would be the ability to vote in elections, just because I think it is an amazing option to have an impact on some changes. And what the third one?
How about,
I think access to the health.
right.
To health in Europe, because for example, when you are from United States, you do have a private health insurance, and if you move into Europe, you are treated as a citizen. You would have access to free one.
And of course, the biggest benefit of all, which is sort of number 4 or 5, if we consider working with you a massive benefit, which it is reconnecting with your Polish heritage. And I don't think people, I think some people underestimate how important that is and what happens when they reclaim their citizenship, because all of a sudden they have another identity, they can tap into another culture, another language, another history, and another space altogether. And I think I would say, Maggie, and I'm sure you agree, that that's probably top 1 benefit and advantage of reclaiming a Polish citizenship, alongside the more practical, boring stuff like a Polish passport.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for spending your morning with us, or afternoon, evening, wherever we are in the world. Really, really appreciate, as always, your bright smile and competence and ability to explain things. So thank you. Enjoy your rest of the day, and we'll speak to you maybe sometime very, very soon.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thanks, Maggie.